Joining us now is Senator Tom Cotton, who serves on the Senate Armed Services Committee and Intelligence Committee. Senator, you just heard Peter Doocy. This report that Lloyd Austin told senators during this briefing that the administration is now looking at ways to train Ukrainian forces remotely. I don't think to be laugh at this, but what's your reaction to that?
Well, it's just one more example of how the Biden administration is on the back foot and has ceded the initiative to Vladimir Putin. Even more disappointing of what we heard in that phone call is that President Biden has ceded the veto pen to our European allies on the kind of sanctions we impose. You mentioned kicking Russia out of the international banking system known as SWIFT. Apparently, there's some European nations like Germany that don't want to do that, so we're not going to kick them out of SWIFT. Likewise, oil and gas are Russia's two largest exports. Europe is in many cases beholden to Russian oil and gas. Moreover, Joe Biden's reckless energy policies have already driven up the price of oil and gas over the last year. So even he and his administration is admitting they don't want to impose oil and gas sanctions on Russia because they're afraid it's going to add to the inflation they've already created. Well, how about we impose those sanctions, but we lift all those restrictions on the production of American oil and gas so we can start drilling on federal lands again and putting out new leases, so we can reopen the Keystone Pipeline, which would bring more oil into America every day from Canada than we import every day from Russia. That's what we should be doing.
Yeah, well, Senator Cotton, to your point, isn't this the moment where you show some flexibility, even if you're a climate change fanatic, show some flexibility and concern for your fellow Americans on this? But John Kerry, frankly, continues to embarrass himself in this country and the world stage with his comments today about what to do next.
Massive emissions consequences to the war, but equally importantly, you're going to lose people's focus. You're going to lose certainly big country attention because they will be diverted, and I think it could have a damaging impact. So I hope President Putin will help us to stay on track with respect to what we need to do for the climate.
Now, Senator, what are the chances, and 1 to 10, 10 being the most likely, that Vladimir Putin is up tonight worrying about really meeting John Kerry's climate goals?
Yeah, it's a number somewhere below zero, Laura. Those are the rantings of a deluded ideologue. Most Americans are not ideological about these matters. They're clear-eyed, they're sober, and they understand that you should not disarm your own energy production when a brutal dictator uses energy as a weapon against our partners and then invades an innocent nation and create some of those scenes that you played earlier of children screaming and families scrambling into subway stations. Most Americans understand it's basic common sense that we want to be able to protect our own energy supply and hopefully supply Europe the energy it needs to get off of Russian energy.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the idea that I grew up understanding when I worked for President Reagan of peace through strength. A weakened America, Senator Cotton, what does that tell the rest of the world? Our southern border is wide open. We don't have the media coverage of that and all that carnage that results. Southern border, except on Fox. Southern border, our economy, inflation, high energy prices, and all the rest of the nonsense with the COVID mandates and everything. I mean, what does that tell the rest of the world? And what did it tell Putin and Xi?
Well, it's told Vladimir Putin over the last 6 months that he can build up 200,000 troops on Ukraine's border and invade. And if we don't bring the hammer down on Vladimir Putin, if we don't turn Russia into a pariah state and isolate them diplomatically and economically and financially, it's going to tell Xi Jinping he can probably do the same thing in Taiwan. After all, he's on the other side of the world. Taiwan doesn't have the same kind of ties to Europe that Ukraine does. His economy is 10 times larger than Russia's. It's simply creating permission around the world for our adversaries to try to press against our interests, try to undercut our partners and our allies, and ultimately put our own safety and freedom and prosperity at risk.
Senator, good to see you tonight. Thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.